Tony D and Little Joan with a screenwriter's rant on Self-Reliance from Hulu. It's a parody movie about, well, basically the world's most dangerous game. Smash like and subscribe. Thank you for smash liking and subscribing. Check out my books. Links in the description. Speaking of hunting, comedy horror in South Jersey. It's the Pineys, books 1 through 13. Available at Amazon.com. Don't forget, Kindle Unlimited is free. Andy Samberg, who I think maybe produced this thing, from writer and director Jake Johnson. Basically, they pick people who are alone. A new film from the producers of The Lonely Island. They pick people who are alone. This is a TV show for the dark web. And then they hunt them. And the rule of the game is you can't be killed as long as you're with somebody. So as long as the person is with somebody, you can't kill him. And so he has 30 days. At the end of 30 days, he gets $1 million. But of course, nobody believes the game is real because it's a secret game, and his family doesn't believe it. But somehow he meets Anna Kendrick, who's also playing the game. So they decide to win the game together. So that's the love interest. Not sure how they get together. Then they fall in love, but then, of course, they have to survive the game. So it's like a parody of all those kinds of movies about, and Christopher Lloyd's in it, too. All those movies about survival and murder. Let's see it's Jake Johnson, Anna Kendrick, Natalie Morales, Mary Holland, Emily Hampshire with Christopher Lloyd, and Wayne Brady. Oh, I didn't see him. That should be fun. And Andy Samberg, who I suspect, yeah, executive producer Andy Samberg. And he makes an appearance. I think slightly more than just a cameo, but so this looks fun. It looks fun because it gives them an opportunity to parody all these crazy movies about people being murdered, you know, in a crazy game, right? So, like, even Highlander, you could parody too. And I was reminded of Highlander because, of course, there's one guy with a samurai sword chasing him at one point, which is kind of funny, right? So you, like, bring in all the assassins from all over the world. That's his family there. And, like, these two guys look like the kind of guys who would set this up. And it works because it's a comedy. This kind of stuff, again, you can stretch the bounds a lot more with a comedy as long as it's funny. And there's lots to mine here, right? So you got movies like Highlander, where it's the last man standing, but then you have movies like The World's Most Dangerous Game, all the parodies of that. There was that one, was it like a year or two ago, where the conservatives were being hunted. Do you remember that movie? I forget what it was called. It was probably called like The Hunt or something like that. There's been a million of these movies. They're usually pretty forgettable, but this could be fun because you could parody all them. You know, movies where just a bunch of assassins show up. Even to some extent, John Wick is kind of in this category because there's just a million different assassins, but the only thing that stops them is for him, for Jake, to be with somebody, and he's kind of a lonely guy, and that's why they picked him. He doesn't have any family or dependents. So if he dies, it's kind of no loss to the world. However, this forces him to be with more people. And there's an interesting line in the trailer with Anna Kendrick, who's in the same situation, and she says something like, why did you agree to do this? And he says something like, well, it finally forced me to go out and meet people. Because people are like that. I'm like that. I'd be a perfect candidate for this movie. Yeah. So I think this could be fun. I would watch this. Sure. So first act, probably about Jake's boring life. doesn't really do much. Suddenly walking home from work, he runs into Andy Samberg on the street, who gives him the offer because he's somehow, because he's playing himself, so he's rich. So he gives him the invitation and confirms who he is, and so invites him to go meet these guys and sign the papers or whatever he has to do, right? So he does. He goes and he agrees, and second act they start to attempt to kill him. Like maybe at first he doesn't believe it, just goes back to bed, normal day, and wakes up the next day. They're like shooting at him, and he has to escape. Then he realizes this is for real. He can't go to the cops or whatever. Tries to tell his family. Nobody believes him. They think he's crazy. So he starts finding people just to be around. So he finds this guy. I don't know if he's homeless or whatever. Just to stay with him for 30 days so he can get $1 million. So, everybody's talking to him like, what's your problem, dude? Then somehow during the second act, he meets Anna Kendrick, who's also in the contest. And of course, they just agree to stay together so they can't be killed. And he ditches the homeless guy. And of course, they fall in love, and that's the love interest. But then, I don't know, maybe she betrays him. Maybe it's like all a ruse to get him alone and win the money. Because then at some point, he wakes up and there's a bunch of people there to kill him. Here's the samurai guy. I don't know. And then the third act, she saves him, maybe? Something like that. Realizes they're in love, and it's called Self-Reliance, which I think is not a great title. I think they needed a funnier title. Self-Reliance doesn't really work for me. And I don't understand the imagery at all these couples. It's weird. Not sure what you're going for here. What would you have called this movie? Like, you'd want to call it something grandiose and funny. Not The World's Most Dangerous Game, but something like that. Because that's pretty grandiose, right? Something about hunting or prey or something like that. I would workshop that one a little more. Self-Reliance just doesn't... It's so boring. That would be my only problem with it. But other than that, yeah, I think it could be decent. I like Andy Samberg, but I gotta admit, like, his comedy for me is very hit or miss. Very hit or miss. I can't say I'm a huge fan, but I can't say I don't like him. Kind of like somewhere in the middle for me. Like once in a while I go, oh, that's kind of funny, and then sometimes I just go, what? But he was on SNL, so SNL, at least in the modern era, for the last 20 years or so, seems to ruin people. Seems to like put really funny people on the show and make them not funny, and then they leave the show and then they're awesomely funny. So I have high hopes for Andy Samberg outside the show because, he was okay on the show, I would say. So yeah, I would totally watch this. Seems fun. I don't know how I will because it's on Hulu. I wonder if it'll make it to Prime at some point. But I think it'll be pretty watchable. I think it's definitely a one-shot movie too. Like, please don't make a sequel. But I think you could do a lot with this, especially with the assassins and all that nonsense. Yeah, something with killers in it. I don't know. I really want to give this thing a different title. I can't think of it off the top of my head. If I workshopped it though, I could come up with something. Let's read the description. Tommy receives an invitation to win $1 million by playing a game where he must outwit hunters attempting to kill him. He realizes the hunters can only attack him when he's alone, but none of his friends and family believe the game is real. Watch Self-Reliance on Hulu, January 12th. Yeah, nice, simple pitch. I think it could work. So check that out. And that's it for me, Tony D and Little Joan. Check us out on Odysee, Bitchute, and Rumble for our more base takes. Speaking of more base takes, I did review Lady Ballers, but I posted it on Odysee, Bitchute, and Rumble. So watch my review. Now, I did the trailer review here, but on the other platforms, I did the review of the actual movie. So I got to watch it, and I put it over there. So if you want to check out my review of Lady Ballers, flip on over to Odysee, Bitchute, and Rumble. And that's it. We'll see you in the next one.